I'm going to call this video the basic. Even with it called the basic, it's going to be a little bit long. This is a very deep operating system, and which means very quickly you get into a lot of options, a lot of tweaks, a lot of things. We're going to start off with the login screen. It's really not that deep, but it does have some cool features. First thing I want to make sure people know is you have different menu choices here on the bottom before and after you click your username. Before you click your username, you only have three options. One is the power button, shut down, restart, suspend. Obvious choices. The next one is a clock. It tells you the day and time, and then when you hover over it, it tells you the date. Can't click it. Can't do nothing with it. Third one looks like the Da Vinci drawing, where there's a man standing with his arms and legs out in a circle. These are accessibility options. Universal access preferences. You can turn on an on-screen keyboard, a screen reader, screen magnifier, so forth and so on. If you need these features, you need to know where they're at. Now, those are all the choices. Once you click on your username, you have three additional choices. First one to the left all the way is the language. If you speak English and your roommate or spouse is French, you can literally install French and the entire operating system will then become French. And here's where you can change it back and forth from English to French to German, everything else. Very easy. With Windows, to really get true German, you have to download the German edition of the disk, or for the French version of the disk. In Ubuntu, you can literally change the entire disk from one language to the other. Second option is keyboard. Again, if you're a world traveler or you have a different language keyboard, here's where you can change that as well. Third option, here's the powerful one. By default, you only have four choices, and the one that is in italic is currently set to the default choice. It is the highlighted one called Ubuntu Desktop Edition, just a normal desktop. On the very top, you have Recovery Console, which is exactly what it sounds. It's just a terminal window where you can type commands. If you need to copy files off, delete files, create files, change files, here's the safest place to do it. No GUI will load at all, so it'll be very quick, and there are certain files you need to change. That's a good place to do it, especially if you cannot get a GUI to launch. Beneath the default choices, Ubuntu Desktop Edition Safe Mode. This is exactly what it sounds like. It loads the Ubuntu desktop, but it doesn't load the full desktop with all of the modules or drivers supported. If you're having issues with your desktop, here's a nice place to go where you can resolve some of your issues. I've never had to use it, I will also add. The last one is user-defined session. For the new user, I would highly encourage you, do not even experiment with a user-defined session yet. We're going to log in, type our password, hear the music. This is the desktop, and this is exactly like most other desktops. You can click and drag, you can right-click, create folder, create launcher, or create shortcut. Create document. Right now you can only create an empty file, which is like a text file. Organize desktop by name, like auto arrange by name. And then there's keep aligned. This will keep it in more of a grid fashion. And then there's change desktop background, if you want to change what that looks like. One quick thing, when you right click on files, most of this is going to look very familiar. You have open with text editor, because this is a text file. Open with openoffice.org word processor. Open with other application. Cut, copy, make link or make shortcut. Rename, copy to with some choices. Move to with some choices. Move to trash, which is like delete. Resize icon. I'm going to stop here. Resize icon is very cool. You click it, you get 4 dots on the 4 corners. You can then make your icon huge. When I have a little task to do, I just make a fake document and say milk. And then when I'm working throughout the night and I close the window, I see this huge file staring at me and it says milk. So I know I need to go get milk. And then when I'm done, I just go delete the file. We're going to right click this file. We're going to have an extra choice, which is restore icon's original size. I like this. Click it. Now it's back to normal. Very nice, very convenient. You don't have to click and drag to try to get it right. It just goes back to right. And right when you right click on a file or a group of files, you have a compress choice, which is exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to create a compressed archive or a zip file, as the Windows users would know it as, right from here. You don't need to go install anything else, anything extra. By default, Ubuntu always wants to do it in the tar.gz format, which is fine for Linux. But if you're going to share this compressed archive with Mac or Windows, I highly suggest you save it as a zip file. Right here, when you go to the location, these are your standard bookmarks. And then you have other. These bookmarks are derived from your main menu or from your file browser. You can set bookmarks. So they're always accessible, even in things like this. With other options with zip file, all you get is password protect. No big deal. Go ahead and hit create. File gets created in the same folder. Now we have milk.zip. Real quick note, right click and drag is dependent upon where you're dragging it to. If it's on the same hard drive, it will typically do a move. If you're dragging and dropping from a network share to another network share or from a hard drive to a thumb drive, it will automatically copy it for you. Left click and drag does not exist. It will not work. But you can double click and drag. Double click and drag, you see a little question mark by the hand. When you let go, you have move, copy, link, or create shortcut, or cancel. Very intuitive as far as I can believe right now. Okay, let's right click on this file one more time. On this file, we had the right click ability to compress or create zip. So of course, when we're on a zip and we right click, we have extract, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Extract the contents of this archive right here. Do it, bam, we have a new file. And it automatically renames the file. It's not going to give you conflicts and warnings. Do you want to overwrite? Linux does whatever it feels to be the safest thing right then, right there. The only other options are send to and properties. The properties window should look pretty familiar. We have a couple tabs on the top, an icon of what it is. Here's the name of the file where you can change it from here. You don't have to single click it, rename, do all that. It tells you the type, the size, the location of the file, the volume of the file, which right now is unknown, accessed, and modified dates. Emblems are pretty cool. These are not what you initially think they are. We can give this an emblem of a green circle with a check mark, hit close. It's not the icon, but it's just up in the corner of the icon. This is a way to in a very easy way, organize your icons, and applications like Dropbox take advantage of that to let you know what is the activity of the file. Is it updated? Is it copying up? Kind of thing. Very nice feature. Next, we have permissions. In Windows, you're used to only seeing read-only, and that's it. And there's not really much permissions beyond that. When in reality, there is much more permissions, even in Windows, than that. But the GUI tends to hide it. In the typical Linux installation, you have 3 groups of permissions. It's the owner's rights, the group's rights, and others' rights. Owner is exactly what it sounds like. Who owns the file? Group is whoever is in that group, what kind of access do they have? And in Ubuntu, the username is also a group name. So I have D2D. I also have a group name called D2D. If I added my wife, I could add her to my group of D2D, and then she can access everything I can access. Your typical options are read and write, read only, none, read only, read and write, none, read only, read and write. Very simple. Others is very important. If you have a network share with other users accessing that and you don't want to regulate them, just let them do whatever they want to do on this share, that's others. Others are people not identified by the systems, like guest. Very nice, very flexible thing to do. And here is execute. Allow execution file as program. If you download anything from the internet, and like a .run file or a .sh file, they technically need to be ran. Whenever you save anything from the internet, by default, it's going to not be checked. It's a security feature, and you really want this there. You don't want everything you download to be executable. So if you do download a .run file, you do have to go in and allow it to execute before it will properly execute. Open with. This is just what the operating system knows is an acceptable application for this type of file. Archive manager and archive mounter. You can mount an archive or an ISO file into a folder and browse it just like it's a folder. It's a beautiful thing. If I do this on the text file, you will see OpenOffice.org word processor and text editor. And the one with the circle checked is the default for that application. Besides that, you also have notes. You can actually store meta information on all of your files. It's a very nice way to just keep track of some things if you really want to. I personally do. I want to get rid of these files real quick. Okay, on the top and bottom we have panel bars. These are kind of like taskbars, and again, they're kind of not. Like a taskbar in Windows, we have an application menu, accessories, games, graphics, internet, office, sound and video, Ubuntu Software Center. Okay, really quick, I'm going to highlight Ubuntu Software Center and under System Administration, Synaptic Package Manager. The best way I can explain these two applications, first I'm going to compare them. Synaptic Package Manager is like being above a city by 500 feet. You can see a good amount of detail and you can see the entire city. With Ubuntu Software Center, you're 1,000 feet up. You can't see a lot of the grime in the city, a lot of the detail in the city, but you can still see the entire city. Ubuntu Software Center is a very user-friendly, non-detailed way of installing software. Synaptic Package Manager allows you to install that exact same software, only you see more details about what's going on with that software and details about the software that you can't see in the Software Center. One's not better than the other. Essentially, they're the same thing, just you get a little bit more control with Synaptic Package Manager. I encourage all new users to try to use the Software Center as much as possible because it's very simple. Now let me explain what this actually is. The only way I can explain this is kind of like Windows Update, but it's not. It's kind of like in Windows you have add and remove programs, but in that application you really can't add programs. All you can do is remove programs. You can't add any programs, but it's called add remove. Think of this as a global catalog of all the software that's tested and vetted with this operating system. Think of this as download.com or snapfiles.com or whatever your favorite Windows site is to go find applications, but it's in your operating system. It's actually a part of your operating system. It gets updated like Windows updates. And another huge plus is if a piece of software, for instance, Firefox, or let's say OpenShot or anything else gets updated, Ubuntu Software Center or Synaptic Package Manager will automatically launch an application called Update Manager, and it will update every single part of your computer for security fixes, enhancements to software, additional software will be updated in that list. This is what sets it apart. One of the things that makes it much more secure is you have inline in the operating system cooperation with all of the software developers to try to keep everything up to date, running well, and secure. That's gold. We'll come back to this Software Center in a little bit. The next menu choice, next application, is Places. Places, think Places as nothing more than bookmarks. These are quick links to places on your computer. Besides that, you also have a choice here to go browse your network, connect to server. So you can very easily connect to a FTP, public FTP, SSH, Windows Share, WebDAV, custom location, a bunch of stuff, including right here you have the ability to add this connect to server location as a bookmark. If you do, it will be accessible from this menu choice from now on, which is a very handy feature if you frequently connect to certain places. After that, we have Search for Files. This Search for Files is actually very, very powerful. Don't sell it short because it looks basic. From here, you can search by date, size at least, size at most. File is empty, owned by group, owned by user. Name does not contain. A lot of choices. Very, very powerful. I use this feature a lot. Underneath that, we have recent documents. It's just like recent documents in Windows or Mac, where you can see what files were recently accessed. Next to that is the System menu. This is like the control panel on Windows, only it actually allows you to control everything on your computer. You have many choices here. I highly encourage people to go look at. You can set up everything from Bluetooth, email settings, keyboard manager. Here's where you can, put on a different keyboard on the computer. Keyboard shortcuts, main menu. You can, through this interface, modify this main menu where you have applications, games, graphics, internet, systems, preferences, just like we saw there. There's much more in here, including built-in remote desktop support. This is using VNC. It's a very easy way to allow remote connections on your local LAN. To access your LAN, you gotta open up ports on your... We're not going to go there. Two of the things I want to highlight here real quick are startup applications and UbuntuOne. Startup applications is exactly what it sounds like. If there's something starting up on your computer that you don't want it to start up, simply come here, uncheck the box, or remove it. If you want to add something here, simply come in here, click Add, type in the name of the application. Typically, the name of the application is very close to the command of the application. Firefox is called Firefox. Very easy. Then go ahead and just click Add, and every time you boot your computer, it will also boot up. The other thing I want to highlight real quick is UbuntuOne. UbuntuOne is like Dropbox, except it's literally built into the operating system. You get 2 gigs of free storage through Ubuntu's servers, and they just launched a Windows client as well. If you have UbuntuOne set up, it will constantly pop a bar up on the top of your window asking you if you want to sync this folder with UbuntuOne. Let me see if I put a blank file here, if I get that choice. No, I believe you have to have it turned on, enabled, and running to get that choice, but it's a very built-in way to back your files up to the cloud. Underneath preferences, you have administration. It isn't as deep, but many customizations and tools from here. Everything from additional drivers for your video or for your Wi-Fi or for your NIC. Computer janitor, which is like disk cleanup. If you want to get rid of packages on your computer that you don't need anymore. Disk utility, look at your hard drive, login screen, printer setup, startup disk creator. You simply put in a USB drive, and this will allow you to make a bootable USB drive from your operating system. Very nice, very flexible. Here's the update manager. This will periodically pop up every 2 to 3 days, not the first Tuesday of the month or second Tuesday of the month or the third Thursday of the month or anything like that, but whenever there's an update. Why be locked into a date range of when there's an update? Why don't you give me an update when people make updates available? Now, I did not do updates when I did the install, so there's 289 available updates, which totals only 293 megabytes. Most Windows updates, I can tell you, you have 4 to 5 updates, and it's an easy 100 megabytes. This is 289, and it's only 293 meg. I think that's amazing. We will do this update a little bit later. Next thing I wanted to focus on was this Panelbar itself and some of the other stuff in here. Firefox icon built right in. If you right-click any of these things, it's customizable. You can edit the menu, you can remove from panel, or you can unlock this. For instance, this Firefox icon, I don't want this right here. I'm going to unlock it, go back, move it. I can simply drag it over here, click it, and it's gone. Now I can lock it over to this side. Very easy to move, very easy to do. We have your typical notification type tray where you have your network status, your volume, where if you go into the volume settings, sound preferences, you can customize how that is. Here's your email menu and your chat menu. If you turn on the default chat client, it will automatically set this menu up to interact with that. Same thing if you use Evolution for your email, which is the built-in email client. This menu will integrate with the notifications from that application. So it's in one centralized place. There is your calendar and your time. Next to it is called the Me menu, to where you can set your status. Just like Twitter or Skype, you can say, I'm away, I'm busy, I'm available. This can integrate with the Empathy chat client and do the exact same kind of thing. This also is how you link with UbuntuOne. Next to that, we have the Power menu. Lockdown, guest sessions, switch from user, log out, suspend, hibernate, restart, shut down. I'm going to go into guest session later. If someone comes over and you don't want them messing with your computer, or your significant other isn't great at computers and you don't want them to mess anything up, quite simply go up to the power button, guest session, and it will launch a brand new read-only session where they can't change anything, and your session will be truly running the whole time. Down here we have a show desktop window. So if we just launch Firefox real quick, hit this little desktop, there's our desktop, click it again, everything comes back up. Right next to that we have an active window list, just like in Task Manager. So if I had something else running, you'll see down here we have 2 applications running side by side. And over here we have what's very new to most Linux, to most Windows users. Linux users will take a little bit of time for you to grasp. These are multiple desktops, and I don't mean desktops, I mean environments. Right here on this first desktop, you can clearly see a Firefox icon. If I come over here, there's no Firefox. There isn't even a task listing saying Firefox. I'm truly in a different environment. Right now we have 4 of them set up. That's the default. If I right click on this and go to preferences, I can change the number of desktops. I think I can go up to something like 120. And you can see down here we have all these desktops. I don't know who needs 120, but you can do it if you want. We're going to bring it back down to a reasonable number. Sometimes I go as high as 6. We're going to go back to 4. And if I just hover over it, you'll see click to switch to workspace 4. Now if I click on Firefox and I come down here, you will see click and start dragging Ubuntu Start Center Firefox. I can literally from down here click on Firefox and I can drag it to a different desktop. I think that's cool. Same thing if I come over here, I can click and drag the calculator to a different desktop. Then if I go to these desktops, I have those applications. I personally think that's very cool. It It enhances efficiency when I use a computer. And then over here we have your trash bin. Just like your recycle bin in Windows or Mac, you can easily empty the trash, or you can very easily store the files. If you right click, you really don't get much more choices, but it's always nice to know what you can do. I always encourage people to click around and right click in different places. Now here's where you get into a little bit of power. These panel bars, like taskbars in Windows, are infinitely customizable just about. You can right click them and say add to panel. A lot of things are here. By default, here's all the things built in that you can add. These are applets. You can add a workspace switcher, which is like down here, a window switcher down here, window list, weather report, user switcher, Tommy Boy notes, system monitor, on and on and on, a whole bunch of things, and you can get many, 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 many more. I like this system monitor. I'm going to show you this one as a good example of being customizable. You can either double click it or highlight it and click add. Now up here we have one little thing, and it's a process meter that doesn't look very useful. Okay, here's where you get good. Right click it and you can go down to preferences. When you're in preferences, you can click memory, network, swap space, which is like a page file, or virtual memory, load, how much load is on the computer, or hard disk activity. Now we have all these meters updating every split second about what is right now the activity on your computer, the health of your computer, how much is it being used. Again, you can simply right click, go to preferences. You can change the color settings in every way you can. How thick is this meter? So for instance, when it comes to network, we might want to see extra history. I can make it wider now. They're all a little bit wider. Change the custom, change how frequently they're updated. Very versatile. If you right click, you also see open system monitor. Or if you just single click it, this is what the Windows users would look at as being the task manager. It's very simple to go through. The first tab is system. This tells you computer name, operating system, kernel version, hardware, system stats. Processes is like your task manager task list. You can very easily go through, see something, and you can right click, stop process, continue process, end process, and kill. End is not as brutal as kill. Change priority, memory maps, and open files. You can see what files are opened by this application. Resources, you can see meters of your CPU activity, swap history, network history, and then file system. It gives you just a quick summary of what's on this hard drive. You can very easily see, it's a 43% filled already. If we had a thumb drive connected, we would also see that listed down here. Okay, we're going to right click and we're going to remove from Panelbar. And just real quick, you don't like the time that's over here? When you go and unlock the panel and you go to move, you can actually also move it to any other panel bar very easily and just click and now it's there. A little bit of flexibility. Now here's what you can also do. If you right click one of these panel bars and go to properties, just like in Windows, you can auto hide. So it isn't there. Oh, it's there. It isn't there. It's there. If you really need your screen space, that's a real nice thing. Or you can hit show hide buttons. I kind of like these from time to time. They put little arrows on the left and right side of this panel bar, where if you click it, the menu is now completely out of the way and it's very easy to get back. Right click properties, uncheck, and they're gone. You can also make this panel bar itself transparent. You can see right now I have a solid color of white picked, which of course, you can go in, pick whatever you want. Click and drag this and you can see that panel bar getting more and more transparent, and you can set it to anywhere you want in the middle, change the color. You can make it a background image even. Very versatile, very flexible. This all might be a little overwhelming to the new user, but I highly encourage you to dabble. Now, if you want to dabble and you're afraid you're going to break something, quite simply go to the power button and go to guest session. You can't break anything. It's gold. I love it. Whenever I want to test something, I'm not quite sure how it's going to act or react on my computer, I go to guest session. I know this was a little long, but this was truly only the basic of everything you can do in this operating system. We're going to move on to something even better.